This is city elections 2021. It could shape the future of the San Antonio Police Department and San Antonio City Hall. Welcome to the KSAT 12 newsroom. I'm Steve Spriester, and I want to get right to our panel because we do have numbers coming in. And the first set of numbers we have for the two big races, 63-31, Mayor Ron Nirenberg leading over Greg Brockhouse, and 51-49 against Prop B right now. Those are the first early numbers that we have. Let's get right to our panel. First, she used to be the executive director with SA 2020. Now she has her own consulting firm, and she's very important because she has a lot of books behind her. Molly Cox joins us live on Zoom. She's part of our panel. Molly?
I read.
Thank you for being here. Let's move to the table now. And we have to my right from Fairfax, Mr. DeMonte Alexander. DeMonte, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Of course, you have history at City Hall and in county government, so very pleased to have you with us live tonight. And from the San Antonio Express News, former consultant, campaign manager. I mean, we'd be here all night if I listed all your accomplishments.
Just cut to the chase.
Greg Jefferson from the San Antonio Express News. Thank you guys for being with us tonight.
Thanks.
All right, Molly, your reaction to the early numbers that we're seeing right now, and what races are you watching?
I mean, I'm sort of watching everything. I realize that a district is a district, but they are influencing the entire city. I'm interested in districts 2, districts 3, districts 5. We're seeing new faces no matter what in council districts 3 and 5. I am very, very interested in Prop B. And I'm interested in the fact that that is so close. And we know that election day turnout is far surpassed what people were assuming, particularly because it was torrential downfall for a hot minute.
Yeah.
So that'll be one to watch as well.
Great. All right, I want to move to DeMonte, the races that you're watching tonight, besides obviously the mayor's race and Prop B we're watching. Give me another race you're watching.
I'm kind of with Molly. You know, the closer your government is to you, the more important it is for you, right? And so all of them are important. And I know we haven't talked a lot about Proposition A. You know, one of the bond referendums are one of the main funding arms we have to big capital projects, to better our neighborhoods, to improve public safety and all those things. So that's important. But I think all of the races are important, but I think what I would like to see is more policy-oriented candidates, because you don't have a lot of time.
Right.
When you got a 2-year window, and I know it's been up for debate in terms of moving the terms.
Right.
But you have 2 years, and that first year, if you're brand new, you're still trying to figure out what's going on. And so when you come in and they're policy oriented, you're already understanding how it works and how that policy trickles up to the state to get things done in a quicker way. So I mean, I have to say all of them are important.
Yeah. Greg?
All right. So apart from, okay, we'll take the mayor's race and
Prop B
off
out.
the table.
Well, obviously those are
like,
big.
Yeah. And actually, the mayor's race has been pretty anticlimactic over the last couple of weeks. So the council races I'm watching are in District 1, with the matchup mostly being against Roberto Trevino and Mario Bravo.
Right.
That'll be a really fascinating one to watch. I know that Mario Bravo's been working kind of the grassroots really hard. Trevino's done the same, and this could be, I think it's likely it'll wind up in a runoff, but we'll see. I'm also looking at the District 3 race. This is an open seat. Rebecca Villagran, she's termed out. Her sister's running to replace her, and we've got Tomas Uresti. So I mean, we always like political dynasties kind of clashing, even if they're not really dynasties, but it's always fun to watch. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that one.
All right, they're switching out my mics. This is the beauty of live TV, is they're switching out my mics as we speak here, because we're getting a little disturbance with it. So let me get this on. I want to know about the mayor's race specifically. And Molly, do you think the mayor's race is going to a runoff tonight, or do you think the favorite Ron Nirenberg wins?
Uh-oh.
All right, Molly, we're not hearing you.
Not me.
There you go. There you go. Try it again.
I'm here. Nothing's changed. I'm saying I realized that local journalists, and I love y'all so much in my center, wanted Fetch to happen. Fetch did not happen. Sorry, y'all. Fetch is not real. And it's not going. No, I don't think it's going to a runoff. That margin is pretty giant.
Right.
Even with what's turning out today, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm standing firm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Greg?
I think you're absolutely right, Molly. This is not going.
I don't think there's
this is
anybody on this
over.
panel that thinks it's
Yeah.
not going to go to a runoff.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
curious.
yeah. It is over. Yeah.
Yeah,
Molly, you were
I'd be
gonna
happy
say?
to be the angry one and say like, yes, it's going to a runoff.
And it should. It should.
But look,
Well, I
you know
mean,
what?
we've seen in our polls, right? We've seen in the Fairfax poll, I mean, 56-21, you know, that margin is still there. Obviously, we still have election day to come out. But, I mean, I think it's spot on.
Yeah. All right. Right now, I want to go. To our first guest tonight from the San Antonio Police Officers Association. Mr. Danny Diaz is with us, the president of SAPOA. If we can get him in the room right now, Proposition B, as we look, 51-49 against, but we are talking less than 2,000 votes right now. And we know that a lot of people think that this is perhaps what generated the turnout over the last couple of days. Do you agree with that?
I do, yeah. I mean, the mayor's race has been very quiet over the last couple of weeks, very anticlimactic. I mean, I think it was clear probably to Brockhouse weeks ago that he miscalculated in getting into this race. So to the extent that there's been excitement, I think it's all, it's been really mostly centered on Prop B.
Yeah. Danny, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Great. Thanks, Danny. Your reaction to the early numbers. Prop B right now is failing. Obviously, that's something that you guys have been working hard to have happen. Your thoughts when you look at the early numbers?
Worried because look, we've done our due diligence to try to educate the citizens on the truth and the facts, and from the numbers that we see, it's from my standpoint, it's a little disappointing. But we'll wait to see what the rest of the night entails.
Did you have a feeling that with the turnout, I mean, I think a lot of people were surprised that the turnout was as high as it was. Do you think Prop B was driving that?
I think so. If you look at historically a municipal race after a federal election, the numbers just aren't that high historically. So I think this proposition played a big part of voters coming out, and we'll see what happens the rest of the night.
Yeah. Are you optimistic that this margin will hold or even increase as the night goes on?
Well, I'm hoping that it'll increase.
Yeah.
But at this point, I'm just sitting back and taking a step back and looking at the big picture, and let's see what the rest of the night entails. I'd like to be optimistic. Thank the individuals that have voted for us in early voting. But hopefully today and today's numbers with the amount of people that came out to vote will see us through.
Yeah. Does the margin matter to you as long as Prop B doesn't pass?
It does, because that tells me that we have a lot of work to do to let the citizens know that this association is not what has been portrayed out to be. But that's something that I have to deal with and work on as soon as this election's over with. God willing, it's in our favor. We've turned a page and going a different direction. It's just unfortunate that it's been 92 days, 91 days that I've been at this position. So with everything going on between the election and collective bargaining, it's a little slow coming, but we will get to that point.
Yeah, not a lot of off days for you since you took over as president of SAPOA, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Steve, you broke out there a little bit.
I said not a lot of off days for you since you've been taking over as president for SAPOA. I mean, you've kind of been put right into this Prop B debate and all of that. I want to let the panelists join us. Molly, if you want to ask Danny Diaz a question.
Yeah, I would be interested in understanding, you feel solid about how y'all have shown up in your mailers and what you've been sharing, and you feel like you've gotten your message out the way that it needed to be shared?
Well, here's the thing is that, I came into this when those things were already put in place, right? I came into it Look, February 1st was the day that I took over as president of this union. So I was playing catch up from the get-go. But not to say that it wasn't a hard-fought race. We did our due diligence to try and get everything out, the information out that we could. But short time frame, it was difficult. And but we're here to continue to educate the community as best that we can to show them that San Antonio is not Portland, it's not Seattle, it's not those places over there.
DeMonte, I want you to you have a question for Mr. Diaz?
Not so much a question, maybe I do, but he says it's not Portland or Seattle, but San Antonio does have those issues, right? And so I think I was on a call with Mr. Diaz where he talked about, he's going to be a different leader, and I think he's taken a different approach. He's been approachable, he's been having the conversations, but I think what we're seeing today, and I think that's why Mr. Diaz is kind of humbled, is because the community is screaming accountability. Obviously, there's another side of the community that's saying they disagree. But I think he's right. There's a lot of work to do in this conversation. We had an opportunity to fix this in the summer, right? And I guess the community felt like they were not being heard. And so that's why we have a process for petitions. They got enough signatures, they got on the ballot. And now you're seeing those people speak up. So yes, there needs to be a conversation around accountability. That's what this has always been about. And hopefully that's what the conversation is going forward, even no matter what the results are.
Danny, you agree with that we need to have a conversation about accountability and transparency?
Look, I've been willing to talk to everybody and anybody since day one of my presidency. It was difficult when you have Zoom meetings with certain organizations and it's just a constant bash and there's no dialogue. But I will tell you this, is that I will be more than happy to sit down with anyone and everyone to discuss these issues and so everybody has a voice. Steve, I think we've talked about before where one of the things that I'm finding is there's no communication anywhere. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to chip away at, is to make sure that we have a dialogue with all agencies, all entities, all organizations, and fix things that we feel need to be fixed.
Yeah. Greg Jefferson.
Yeah, just a quick question. So if Prop B passes today, are you going to challenge it in court? Will the union try to overturn this through litigation?
Yeah.
Is it a possibility? Is it something you've considered?
Didn't mean to cut you off there, but
sure.
At this point, we have no idea where we stand. Right, we're trying to get through tonight.
So you haven't talked about any kind of contingencies like this? No advance planning?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Where do we go from here, Danny? Because even if the margin goes up 2 or 3 points, I mean, it's still really close. What would you like to see happen after this, whether Prop B passes or doesn't pass?
That's a great question, Steve.
So here's the thing: is that I meant what I said, and I meant what I told you when we met the first time, Steve. Is we need to have an open dialogue with activists, with community leaders, from the chief to the mayor to the city manager. Look, there's things that we can talk about to fix. I know the gentleman that spoke earlier talked about we could have fixed this in the summer. I wasn't here in the summer to be able to deal with issues or having conversations. What I'm telling you from this point forward is that is my goal, is to make sure that the community as a whole, whether it's activists, the chief's office, the mayor's office, understand that we are here not only to do a job and to do a job right. I've said from the get-go that we don't want bad officers here either. We've done our due diligence to make sure we weed those people out. But that's a work in progress as far as breaking those barriers of communication. So my goal is to show this community that we are here to work with them and not against them.
Is it possible, and this is something I brought up in the Prop B debate that we did at Trinity University, is it possible to be pro-law enforcement but still want to have accountability and transparency? I mean, is it possible that because that's in a lot of the bare facts polls that we've seen, that's what's come out, is that people support the police department, but they are also concerned about accountability?
Well, a lot of what I've seen, Steve, is that people mention that quite often, but they haven't taken the time to educate themselves. Look, they're listening to whichever side. Let's just say they're listening to the activists or they listen to us.
Yeah.
But my response is that I would hope that you would educate yourself, and it's very simple. SanAntonio.gov, under the search icon, go to General Manual Procedure 303. That's our discipline. It's 25 pages long. It's all in there. But there's misinterpretations, misinformation that has gone out on what things actually mean. And if you read our stuff, I get it. Some of those things are done on sentences. If you look at it and read it correctly, you'll see that we have a lot of things put in place. Our stance is, how do we go so far from 2015 when the Justice Department came in and said that we were a model city because of the rules and regulations, policies and procedures that we had in place? They haven't changed. It's if anything, they've added to it. So look, we're just here to work. We'll see what the rest of this night entails, and then tomorrow we'll hit the ground running and see where we're at from there.
Danny, I appreciate your time. You've always been great with giving us your time and talking about some of the issues that have come up in your tenure. So I want to let you know that I appreciate it. And I also want to let you know that whatever happens, if to open up a dialogue about what we're talking about with accountability and transparency, if there's any way I can help, you just let me know.
I appreciate that, sir. And I'll get back to you and hold you to it.
All right. That's a deal. All right. Thanks, Danny. Have a great night.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Take care, sir.
All right, now we're going to move on and get the other side of this debate, because right now the numbers have not changed from what I've seen. It's still 51-49, 53,421 votes against Prop B, 51,531 votes for Prop B. And Prop A, by the way, is passing comfortably, 59% for Prop A and 41% against. I believe we have OG Martin now.
I can't hear anybody.
OG, can you hear me? OG, it's Steve Spriester.
Hello, hi.
Hey, how are you? You're on our live stream. I appreciate you coming on with us and making time. I know you're at the friendly spot, so I appreciate in the middle of this party that you're taking time out to talk to us. Your early reaction to the numbers that you've seen so far.
I am just so taken. I am in awe of my city. I'm so proud of my city. When we turned in over 20,000 signatures earlier this year, it was a love letter from the city, and the city showed up and showed out. I mean, we were breaking record numbers in terms of early voting, and now today with over 50,000 people casting their votes in one day for a municipal election, I say San Antonio is awake. Moving forward, we are awake to the changes that we need in police accountability, and I'm just in awe.
You have a pretty big smile on your face. I do have to say that right now. I also want to talk about, do you think you can make up this margin? I mean, these are largely early votes that we're seeing right now. Do you think you can make up the margin in votes cast today?
But I cannot tell you that number because I am not a number cruncher. But what I can tell you is that today San Antonio came out in numbers. They came out because they cared about the issue. Regardless of which way they voted on Proposition B, they were engaged in their municipal election. They were engaged to the power of local elections. That is something that is now ignited, and we can take it to help our city just get better and better no matter what the issue.
All right, we've got some panelists with us. Molly Cox is with us, formerly of SA 2020 and a consultant now. And Molly, can you ask OG a question, see if she can hear you? She's at the friendly spot, so you know it's really loud there.
Yeah, so speak up.
Will, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It's because we're on the same screen. Like, we can actually see each other. We can't see who's in the studio, which makes it much better.
We look great, but we look great, by the way, Molly.
So do we. Look at our lighting. Amazing. I am like so taken with the fact that you're sitting so squarely in the amazing turnout that we are having. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that we are breaking records, we're shattering records. And I fully believe that it has everything to do with Proposition B. I fully believe that it has everything to do with fix SAPD and move Texas and getting the vote out. And I am very excited about that from a like person who's lived in this community and said we need more people in our municipal election. And I'm curious, you're sitting so squarely in like the excitement of turnout, and I'm like, are you sitting also squarely in like, hey, we could take this?
That we could win this?
Yeah.
Yes, most definitely. I think that is what is fueling this smile on my face, that this is something that San Antonio wanted and they could actually have. I've always said Proposition B is a way for us to have our cake and eat it too. We get to have a police accountability, we get to have a seat at the table, and we get all of this without having to take a single penny from the budget. And that resonated with people, and that's what the people want. So they went out and voted for it, something that we've never seen before in terms of voter turnout in a municipal election. So I hope this is a loud and clear sound for our representatives, for our mayor, for our city manager, that this is what people want. So hold firm in your negotiations. Do not budge. The disciplinary barriers that are current in our contract need to go. And San Antonio has made it loud and clear that they want those disciplinary barriers gone. And they want to be a part of the discussion, as they just showed us by going to vote.
All right, DeMonte Alexander's also with us from Fairfax, and very experienced in city and county politics. OG, I'm going to let DeMonte ask you a question.
Hey, OG, how are you? So the question I have is, we spoke to Danny Diaz earlier, and he talked about, regardless of win or lose, there needs to be a conversation moving forward. And, say Prop B doesn't pass. What are you guys' plans to move forward to continue pushing the conversation about accountability and to ultimately get that?
It was very hard for me to hear that question, DeMonte, but I believe you're asking what we're going to do moving forward in terms of accountability. We are going to keep watch. San Antonio is awake, and Fix SAPD was birthed as a way of educating voters, educating them of what they could do locally to make the changes in policing in our city. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to definitely keep watch of the current negotiations that are happening right now, whether this is a win for Prop B or it is not. We are going to definitely be in that room, find a way to educate voters and let them know what is happening with the contract henceforth.
All right, Greg Jefferson from the Express News going to ask you one last question, then I'll let you get back to your party, OG.
Yeah, so at this point, it looks like Mayor Nirenberg is going to win re-election by a landslide. And as we know, he never endorsed Prop B. How disappointing was that? I mean, if he had put his weight behind it, you might be, well over 50% at this point. That must be a bit disappointing.
I'm so sorry, I could not hear you.
The question was that the mayor didn't come out either for or against Prop B. Are you disappointed he didn't come out for Prop B? And do you think if he would have come out, the showing would have been even greater tonight?
The thing is, in early talks with the mayor, he's always been wanted accountability for this city. And he searched for other like-minded political leaders to join him. But in that early process, no one yet had come up. And it's just to show you the power that SAPOA has over our political representatives. That is why it's so important for us to be able to affect change when we need to affect change, because we cannot depend on a mayor who is fighting for his seat. We cannot depend on a district representative who wants to keep their seat, knowing full well that SAPOA, the police union, will throw everything they have, their war chest, if you will, which is what they did with Fix SAPD, but it did not work because people still showed out. But they will throw everything they have at you. And what the difference between the residents of San Antonio and the political leaders is that we have nothing to lose. We do not have a seat to lose. We do not have a seat to run for. So we will always do what is right for our city, despite the blowback of SAPOA. I don't know them from Tom, Dick, and Harry, but what I do know is my city, and I do know my city needs accountability, and I will do what we need to do to get there, and so will all of San Antonio residents.
OG Martin with Fix SAPD, I appreciate your time. You've been very generous with your time with me in the past, just like I said to Mr. Diaz, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to let you get back to your party.
I'm so sorry I could not hear anything, but I am so glad to talk to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, take care, OG. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, now we're going to move to the mayor's race. We continue to monitor Prop B. The numbers haven't changed. 51-49, roughly what is happening as far as the numbers go with Fix SAPD. 51% against, 49% for. Let's move to the mayor's race right now. And you can see Ron Nirenberg with a comfortable lead right now. 63% of the vote in early voting for Mayor Ron Nirenberg, 31% for Greg Brockhouse, who is the nearest behind him. And I believe we have the mayor right now on Zoom. Mayor Ron Nirenberg, are you with us?
I'm here, Steve. How are you?
I'm great. You're kind of sideways, though. You're sideways. There you go. There you go. That's better. All right. I was going to say you're sideways, but your numbers are not right now. You're at 61%. Your reaction to the early voting?
I'm very pleased. I mean, we were pleased during the week as we saw the early vote numbers of voters that were turning out. One of the things that we have to do in this community is inspire more voter activity and civic engagement. And that is very clear. It's moving in the right direction in our city, and that's always a good thing. Of course, I'm very pleased with the numbers. We were planning for a big victory. We're working towards it, and it looks like that's going to come to pass tonight.
Is this, compare this feeling to 2 years ago?
2 years has gone by, and what a 2 years it has been. This city has seen, as the country and the world has seen, probably some of the most challenging times we've had in a generation. I've been enormously proud of our community for coming together and working towards health first and ensuring that we're saving each other's lives and protecting the health and safety of our family and friends and neighbors and businesses. And we've come together in a way that I think is uniquely San Antonian. So it is a much different environment, much different experience than 2 years ago. But through it all, I think you've seen the very best of San Antonio, and I think you're seeing that tonight as well. This is going to shatter all records in terms of voter turnout, and to be on the receiving end of a victory like this with the number of people at the polls is quite gratifying for the entire community and the entire city that we've been trying to lead.
Give me one thing that you're going to carry forward, that's one vision that you have for your next term.
It starts with making sure that we can put this pandemic behind us, and things are going very well. Hospitalizations have been on the decrease for the last several days. Vaccinations are on the rise. But let's not fool ourselves. We still have to make sure that we put the pandemic behind us first and foremost. And so that's going to be number one on the agenda. Then getting our economy back on track. We've been working to support small businesses in our city. We've got to continue to do that and step that up as we also work towards oversight and implementation of our Ready to Work plan. We are working to make sure that we have a strong recovery here in San Antonio, which I'm very glad our community has come together to set the stage for. Now we have to execute. So it's going to be a very bright summer. I think things are beginning to improve in such a way that I hope people are excited about things that are going to happen during the summer. And then, of course, we're setting the stage now for a very strong recovery and a bright future for San Antonio.
I want to let each of our panelists ask you a question. First, Molly Cox. Molly, you have
Sure.
a question for the mayor.
Hi, we can
Hey,
see
Molly.
each other on the Zoom. Hey, I'm going to ask you the question that I assume Greg was already had it in his pocket and was going to do it, so I'm going to cut him off at the pass. Hey, how do you feel as a incumbent mayor who was walking into this you're walking into this election a full winner? No offense, everyone, but right, it was his to lose basically. How do you feel now, based on where we are today, that because you didn't come out strong for or against Prop B, that you could have influenced with so much of a vote, like you're 63% ahead, that you could have potentially influenced Prop B in one way or the other? And like, was there a reason that you didn't, or like, where did that come from? Were you?
Yes, because ultimately the voters will decide the rules of the road with regard to negotiations of our future contracts with police. And let's be very clear, our goals for the future in policing in San Antonio have not changed. We want to make sure that we build a community that has respect for the police, because the police respects every citizen. And that's going to require us to reform the things in the contract that need to be changed. Chiefly among them, the ability for the police chief of San Antonio to make the ultimate hiring and firing decisions for the department, and ensuring that there is transparency and accountability in that process. So Proposition B would change the terms of negotiation for the city and the police association, but it does not change the work we have to do with whatever the form of negotiation that has to occur. So again, Proposition B balloting looks very, very close. But my job as mayor and the job of the city council is to make sure that we achieve the reforms at the table that the community wants, and that is accountability and transparency, making sure that there is a mutual respect in our community, police to citizen and citizen to police.
DeMonte Alexander, I'll let you ask the mayor a question.
Hey, Mayor, congratulations on what seems to be a good victory so far. You know, our Bare Facts poll has shown, and I think we've seen in the community, the great work you've done with the pandemic, and I think that shows also with the workforce development and plans. Those are fantastic, and I think Molly stole the question from Greg and I. But I think my question would be, you know, regardless of where this proposition goes, Mayor, this is going to take some leadership to move it forward, whether it passes or whether it fails. And I think you kind of almost touched on it, but what do you see your role is in using your leadership ability and also your favorability to ensure that, you know, this is split right down the middle, just to ensure that there's like you mentioned, accountability throughout this process. I don't think anyone wants to see a San Antonio without a police department. Maybe there's some do, but a majority of people don't. But what do you see your role is in moving us forward after Proposition B passes or fails?
Well, frankly, to make sure that we have backbone at the negotiating table. Again, if the rules of the road change as a result of Proposition B, our goals cannot, with regard to achieving the reforms that are necessary for accountability and reform. And it is no secret to anyone in this community, or frankly across the nation, about what we're trying to do. And those have been clear for the last 6 years in terms of what those reform measures look like, and largely modifications of Chapter 143, the chief's authority with regard to ultimate hiring and firing, the process by which, or the ability for complete disciplinary records to be reviewed during the appeals process. All those cannot be changed and will not be changed regardless of the results of the Proposition B balloting. What will change if Proposition B passes is the terms of negotiation, but we still have to stay true to the objectives of the negotiation in terms of the reforms that we're trying to achieve on behalf of the community.
Greg Jefferson.
Yeah, so I've seen this election as kind of a referendum on your handling of the pandemic, and at this point in the evening, it seems like voters are definitely okay with it. But you know, the pandemic appears to be winding down, and now the city is going to have to grapple with some of the problems it's brought on. What do you see as your top challenge in the next year related to the pandemic, and what are you going to do about it?
You know, the top challenge is, in my opinion, Greg, going to be to make sure that we have a robust and inclusive economic recovery. We know that there have been certain sectors of our economy that have been hit very hard by the pandemic and that are suffering, frankly, from depressed employment and getting folks back to work. So the number one priority is to ensure that we can have folks get back to work safely, and that starts with making sure we put the pandemic behind us as quickly as we can. And so vaccinations and the process by which we do that remains a priority immediately out of the gate. And then we're going to move on to our economic recovery, and it's going to be a challenge, but we are on as firm a foundation as any city in the country to do that.
At this point, what are your plans for additional federal stimulus dollars? You must have thought about it.
Oh yeah, no, we are going through a process right now that includes we have to wait for the rules and regulations of the federal dollars that are coming in, and we're going through that process with the county to make sure that we cover all of our bases in terms of economic recovery, infrastructure, et cetera. So I got to get inside, guys.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Are you literally in your car? You're literally in your car outside your party, aren't you?
Yeah, I got to wrap it up, but I know we'll be back on the air. So really appreciate it, guys, and look forward to seeing you all out here, too.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, and congratulations on the numbers that we've seen so far. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. I thought he was in the car right outside his party, and I was like, okay, I got to go, guys. There's people out here waiting for me. Okay, I want to quickly go through some of the city council race numbers that we have. This is from KSAT.com on the board that we have behind us. In District 1, Roberto Trevino, the incumbent, 46%. Mario Bravo, thought to be a formidable challenger. It seems as if he is tonight with 34%, and then Cindy Dominguez with a respectable 12%. Molly, your reaction to the fact that this, if the numbers hold where they are right now, is going to a runoff?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me completely. I think what you're seeing also in District 1 is probably a split of super, I mean this in like super environmental, younger, like liberal change, right? That really is looking at Mario Bravo. You also have seen over the course of the last couple of years some major challenges to Trevino's space and the homeless, like finding spaces for homeless people that are living, sometimes staying at the District 1 field office, and how that has really sort of changed the neighborhood where his field office is. So you've seen a lot of pushback there and sort of what he's been trying to do. So this doesn't shock me that we're here. And I would also think that Proposition B is sort of split between the two of them. I will remind, like, Roberto Trevino came out very, very hard for Proposition B. Mario Bravo on the other side had been sort of at the forefront of.
He helped to organize Fix SAPD.
Right. And then basically was like, I'm out when he started running. So I think that probably played a little bit of a role in this as well. So yeah, I'm not shocked. We're seeing a split. I don't know that enough votes are going to come out in the day of election to push him over 50%, so it potentially could go to a runoff, which isn't shocking.
Yeah. DeMonte, your reaction to District 1?
I'm a little biased. You know, I used to be the deputy chief of staff for Roberto.
I do remember that, yes.
But, man.
Didn't we play softball together?
We did. We actually won.
Yeah, we
actually won.
Came back.
Last hit. I think.
That's right.
But I think Roberto, look, man, Roberto's a hard worker. His heart is in that district. And sometimes when you push, it's difficult. You have to have difficult conversations when you're trying to change systemic problems, right? And so, and I think the key to District 1 is the surrounding neighborhoods, those downtown neighborhoods. You know, you have to stay in tune with kind of where they want, what issues are they dealing with, and really be a listener. And I think Roberto's done a great job of that. Just keep in mind, last election cycle, he won by 59% of the vote, right? And so the last election I remember before that was Michael Montano really took him to the brink.
Right.
And I remember him learning from that and really being responsive to his community. Now, obviously, we've seen some kickback, but I think if it wasn't for some of these other candidates performing well, we'd probably see that same number again. Yeah. But kudos to Mario. Mario, very familiar with Mario. Mario's a very, very smart dude. He's a hard worker. He volunteers for almost everything. Smart guy as well, but Roberto's just done the work.
Yeah, let's go back. I skipped past there. This is the District 1 numbers since we have them up on the screen. Greg, your reaction to this race?
Well, a couple, and maybe you can help me out with this. Like, it seems like Councilman Trevino has kind of historically had a hard time just kind of sealing the deal with progressive voters. Why do you think that is? No?
Well, to me, I feel like Roberto is extremely progressive,
right?
And I feel like the ones who are extremely progressive are the ones that support him. So I don't think I think where Roberto's losing some folks is the ones who are more moderate. The ones that, rainbow crosswalks and removing statues, they kind of irks them, So I think that's what Roberto loses. But again, that's what I mean by him pushing. He's pushing so hard, you're going to get some kickback from those folks who are still on the fence about being progressive versus conservative.
Yeah, and it definitely seems like Mario Bravo, he's definitely run a more effective campaign than he did in Precinct 2 against Paulo Elizondo a couple of years ago. Like, he obviously learned some lessons.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some of the other races. Let's go to District 2 right now. This is another race that a lot of people were watching, and there are so many candidates and what I would consider credible candidates in this race. Right now, Jalen McGee Rodriguez with 27%, the incumbent Jada Andrews Sullivan at 19%, Norris Tyrone Darden at 14%, Krista Villanueva at 8%, Miss Nika Cleaver at 6%. I mean, that's a lot of votes that are going to a lot of different candidates. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Jalen and Jada, who used to work together in a runoff. DeMonte, I'll let you react to this one
first.
first.
And this is another seat. I'm biased. I used to be the comms director for District 2. But yes, this is exactly what I saw in the numbers. When you look at the finance report, when you kind of get caught in your bubble, you get wrapped up, but go to the numbers. If you look at Jalen's spending, Jalen ran his campaign like they were hungry all the way to the last day. You can see that when their burn rate. And you look at Jada's numbers, I can see why she's in the position she's in now. They've raised more money than Jalen, but they've been a little conservative on their expenditures because they're banking, okay, we're going to make the runoff, right? So let's not burn all of our money. So when we get to the runoff, we have a war chest to really go after the runoff. So their strategy played off well for them if this holds. But if you look at the expenditures, you can see why Jalen's leading right now. Plus, I always gauge campaigns by the team they surround themselves with. Jalen has a phenomenal team. Christy has a phenomenal team. Jada, I think she has a good team, but she's the incumbent. So a lot of those candidates, and I think what you're seeing in this race, what you didn't see in previous races, is a lot of these candidates really ran great races. They were on the ground really knocking on doors, and you only saw maybe a couple of candidates doing that previous.
Yeah. Greg Jefferson, your reaction to these numbers. Also, I want to mention we're bringing Doug Heath in with us from the San Antonio Observer.
Hey!
Doug, your dogs. They heard me say your name. They heard me say your name.
Yeah, they did. They were quiet until you announced that I was coming on. I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm going to ask Greg Jefferson his reaction to District 2. Then I want your reaction to all the races that you've seen so far, Doug. But right now, let's go.
Yeah,
with Greg.
I'm not surprised to see Jalen in the lead. He just had a lot of momentum and a lot of energy. And also, weirdly, he also had Roberto Trevino's endorsement, which is pretty rare. I mean,
yes.
To have a sitting councilman,
an incumbent not endorse an incumbent.
Yeah, to actually go against Jada Andrews Sullivan. So yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I think she's about to get, assuming this is a runoff, and it almost certainly is. She'll get a big tranche of campaign contributions from kind of the political establishment early on.
Right.
But I think he's going to do pretty well. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this race outside the district.
Now, I had some people tell me they didn't think Jada would necessarily even make the runoff. That they didn't think that was necessarily a given. Doug, I'm going to let you weigh in on this. When you look at the District 2, right now it looks like it's Jalen and Jada. Are you surprised by those numbers right now?
Well, actually, no. There's so many people in the race. Obviously, you knew it was going to be a runoff. Jaden, he's got a lot, with his very, very diverse constituency. He had a lot of motivated people when he wanted to run. And I think the weather had a big thing to do with it as well. I think the rain chased a lot of people away. I think many hoped that they could have brought out more people to vote, but I think the rain kept a lot of people at home. So Jada, she's an incumbent. It's tough to beat an incumbent, and then so Jalen's done well. He's done really, really well. And I don't see that changing. I see the runoff happening, and I think the incumbent in District 2 is really in trouble. Because when you get that many people coming out to vote, that many people running in the election, I think it just says that that people are looking for a change, and that's with all of the race. We had so many people running in every district. I think the number was somewhere about 10 people in each district running for office, which brings us to another thing. We've got to come up with some type of a plan where we can't lose entire city government. I mean, because that could have happened today. I don't think it will happen. I think Ron is looking good, and I think Trevino in District 1 is looking good. So but if that didn't happen, we could have lost all of our city council, sitting senior city council members, including the mayor, and to have to start all over after each election. That is a tough way to go.
You want some staggered terms? Is that what you're saying? Maybe staggered terms.
I think we need staggered terms. Yes.
I want to come back to you, Doug, but right now I want to go to Molly Cox and get her reaction to District 2, what we're seeing right now.
Well, first I was emphatically like, yes, I would love staggered terms. Yes. The fact that we could lose everybody in one sweep doesn't make any sense to me at all. The fact that we have 2-year terms doesn't make any sense to me at all. And that's an entire different conversation. District 2, there are so many things about this race that are making me excited. Turnout makes me excited.
Turnout is good.
Younger turnout makes me excited. The fact that you have a young gay man as a front runner in District 2, like, makes me, I'm like, if I could dance a little bit. I'm like so excited about it. I'm excited that he is like a teacher who just was like, I want to give back to my community. And we've seen that across the board, right? We saw young people running in District 3 and District 5 and District 10 for school board. I am desperately hoping that the ridiculousness of young voter apathy is out the window. We have shown that is absolutely untrue, particularly right now in a municipal race. And I obviously want to lay that down at Vote Texas, Move Texas, and also at Fix SAPD's feet. But the fact that these young folks are like running and doing it well, they're not like faking it. They're running a campaign. And that's, I think, what you saw in District 2. Jalen was running a campaign to win and be our council. Like, he wants to be a council rep, right? So it was impressive.
Like I said earlier, Jalen surrounded himself about really, really smart campaigners, and that really paid off for him.
We had it was televised on KSAT. The Observer did a District 2 council forum, where we asked everyone the same question. It wasn't like the typical thing that normally goes on in District 2. And when you look at it from an objective standpoint, now that the polls are closed, I mean, Jaden did extremely well. I mean, of all the candidates, he did extremely. He was very well prepared. He had his facts together, and he wasn't intimidated by the older voters.
We've done some Facebook. We're doing this on Facebook Live, and so we had some Facebook polling that we did, and we asked an interesting question: what drove you to vote today? And this is interesting. And we had 42% say Prop B, 34% said the mayor, 17% said city council, 6% said other. That's very interesting. Obviously unscientific poll on our Facebook page, but I was very interested in that. I want to quickly run through the rest of the races, because we got to District 1, we got to District 2, and then Doug, I'm going to give you first shot to tell me what your overall thinking is. But as we look at District 3, Phyllis Villagran, the sister, obviously, of the incumbent city councilwoman, with 24%. Tomas Uresti with 14%, and then Marcelo Martinez with 13%. So that's a very close race there to see who will get into a runoff, but it's almost assuredly going to a runoff. Adriana Rocha Garcia with 71%. Yep. She's the incumbent. She's going back. District 5, Terry Castillo with 30%, Rudy Lopez with 14%, and then Norberto Jeremy Landon at 12%, and Anthony Gress at 12%. So that's going to be a close one to see who gets in the runoff with Terry Castillo in District 5. District 6, Melissa Cabello Haverda, 57%. Looks like she is safe as an incumbent. Anna Sandoval, 72%. She's certainly safe. Manny Pelaez had a lot of challengers, but he had 62% of the vote. So he did very well.
Pelaez showed up really, really well today. he showed up really well.
Yeah, District 9, John Courage.
And Courage.
He's right at 50%. He's right at 50%. Patrick Von Dolen at 34%, and District 10, Clayton Perry at 55% to Ezra Johnson at 30%. So, Doug, your reaction to those races, what stands out to you?
Well, what I think Pius did it really extremely well. I think he overperformed, and obviously he's going to be back there. Sandoval, I'm really glad to see that she's there. Courage, I know John Courage. He has been around so many times trying to, ran for mayor a couple times, and then running up there in District 8. To see him come out and with a strong support from his constituents, I thought that was really well. So it looks like we're going to have several incumbents that are going to be back there, and I think they are all very strong folks that the city's in good hands for there.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised Prop B is as close as it is?
Well, Prop B, the police union put out a lot of information, and they put a lot of money behind their message. I think Prop B is something that is I personally support it, and it is a very, very divisive issue that many people don't understand, and you really have to understand that the charter and what the purpose of Prop B is. It wasn't to defund the police. It was to make it easier so that police officers who run afoul of the law, who do things that are against what most police would be in support of, that they can be disciplined, and they can be, and then that discipline will hold up under scrutiny. So without that, we will have more of the same of what we have today, and I think that it would be an embarrassment, in my opinion, to the city of San Antonio if Prop B does not pass.
Interesting. And your reaction before I let you go, Doug, on the mayor's race right now? I mean, a resounding victory, it seems, for Mayor Ron Nirenberg right now.
Well, Mayor Ron, as I call him, Mayor Ron has been around. This is going to be his third time in winning, and I think he's learned each time on how to be a candidate and how to lead the city. I think his leadership, along with Judge Wolf, who's not running right now, but I think their leadership during this COVID incident, this pandemic, I think has shown the country, quite frankly, how to lead a big city through a pandemic and get everything done and citizens safe in spite of difficult leadership above him. He's found a way to, while following the governor's initiatives, he's found a way to keep us all safe, get us all vaccinated, and I think they did a fantastic job.
Doug,
look at other cities. I think that San Antonio could have been a lot less well off than we are right now, and so I think the mayor's done a great job. I mean, he deserves another shot.
Douglas Heath, who's the associate editor of the San Antonio Observer, always appreciate your insight. I loved your question during the mayoral forum. I'm going to let you just, I see you pick up your phone. You're going through the numbers just like we are here. So I appreciate your time, and I look forward to the Observer's District 2 runoff forum, which I know is coming.
That's coming, and we'll be on KSAT with that as well. So we just got to pick the date.
All right, Doug. Take care. Have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a great time.
Take care.
All right. Take care, Doug.
Bye.
Molly, I was interested when we talked to OG Martin, just how she talked about she thinks the city's awake now. I kind of echo those sentiments. Do you not, Molly?
I do, fully. I'm like, listen, we had this SA Speak Up, which was the budget conversation that happened last summer. You saw, I think it was 20,000 people completed the budget survey. That's unheard of. The numbers for younger people filling out that survey exponentially jumped. during that time. And I think then you had Fix SAPD come out with their 10 ideas of like how to remedy the contract. And I think at that time, people were sort of pushing back very hard against that, right? They were saying like, stop talking about defunding. We don't want to talk about systems. And Fix SAPD was like, we're trying to fix a contract because nobody wants to talk about a system, right? So then they're like, great, let's rally. They got 20,000 people to put signatures down to get something on a ballot, right? Like that to me shows an exponential movement in our community. Steve, just even your, I'm going to put it in air quotes, non-scientific Facebook poll, which is legit as far as I'm concerned, showed people were more interested in Proposition B than the mayoral race. That doesn't happen. The top race, president, mayor, the top race is what brings people to the polls. And that is not what occurred. And that to me, the fact that we are talking policy at a municipal level in a vote speaks volumes about who we are right now as a community. We are having complicated conversations. We are taking matters into our own hands as voters, as community organizers, and I'm very proud of like what we have witnessed, particularly over the course of the last summer to now. We've seen it over the course of many decades, and it's just been a really rallying point. I'm very excited. I realize that no one gets as excited about voter turnout as voter nerds, like those of us here today.
Like all of us on this live stream? Yeah,
right, yeah. We're just voter nerds, and
yes.
Nobody's like, oh, look at us, we have such a great voter turnout. And I'm like, no, this speaks volumes for what's occurring inside our community, that we had such a large voter turnout for a municipal election. Like that doesn't happen. So yeah, first of all, OG, I'm like her, yes, all day, every day. I want to hear from her. And then secondly, yeah, I echo everything that she said. Her enthusiasm is, I'm right there with it.
Yeah,
yes.
And I know that SA 2020 was, that was one of the big initiatives for SA 2020 is to get more people involved in elections just generally. But
That's right.
I give SA 2020 credit too in making this an issue and pushing the issue of getting more people involved and engaged in our elections.
And they've continued that work, and I am so pleased with who they are. Like that organization, obviously, forever will have my entire whole heart. And yes, I'm like give them all the props as well.
Yeah. All right. We have our Dylan Collier, who is actually Prop B, very close still. Dylan Collier joins us from the Blue Cares warehouse, where the San Antonio Police Officers Association is having their rally tonight. Dylan, can you hear me?
Yeah, Steve, I can hear you.
Talk about the mood there.
I hear you, Steve.
When I talked to Danny Diaz, he was almost low-key about the numbers. He was disappointed with the numbers that they've seen so far. Is that what you're hearing too?
Yeah, they were hoping that it would be a bigger gap than about 2,000 votes. That's essentially what the Fix SAPD, the side that is hoping that Prop B passes, needs to overcome, which is really not a wide margin. You could do sort of the simple math, and if Fix SAPD was to get, let's say, 60% of the vote today, that would probably be enough to get them to overcome that less than 2% deficit and actually get this proposition to pass. So, they're not in a comfortable position here at the fundraising wing of the union on the west side, and not where they wanted to be, sort of a subdued atmosphere as a lot of the volunteers come in from the various polling locations that they worked at, both during early voting and then throughout the day today.
Because they were out in force, Dylan.
Yeah, they were present all over the city, both during early voting and today. They had obviously the blue shirts saying to vote no on Prop B. There was a lot of interaction between folks that were against this proposition and people that had come out to vote. And you got the sense because of that this was going to be a narrow margin, and that's what we've seen so far.
All right, Dylan Collier covering both sides. I know you're at the SAPOA party now. I know you're going down to the Fix SAPD party as well. Appreciate you taking some time to talk to us, Dylan.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Are you surprised? I mean, I want to caution people that the numbers I'm looking at right now is 0% of precincts reporting. So that means no vote from today computed so far.
Right.
I mean, this is very close. It could swing on the vote that we have today.
Usually within 4 points, you can make up 4 points. Preferably you want it to be 2 or 3, but definitely within striking distance. If you ran a great ground game, which I recommend knocking on doors, that's 3-1, you would definitely can catch that, make up that margin. But I wanted to talk about, Steve, how significant it is for the bare facts poll to come out 2 weeks before early voting and let the not only the community but the candidates and those working on campaigns to see where they stood at that given time. That allowed Fix SAPD to adjust messaging, that allows SAPOA to adjust their messaging. They didn't hoping it wasn't that close, and what we saw was it was a third, and a third, right? Right. With the third being undecided, and whoever did the best job of convincing the undecided voters about their message, and whichever one had a more convincing message, what we would see, and what we're seeing now since those last few weeks, is that Fix SAP did a great job of resonating with their voters and connecting with their base. Obviously, we have to see Election Day, but I think it's very significant that you get that snapshot, that 2-week snapshot from the Verifax poll.
Yeah, I want to mention that we did invite Greg Brockhouse to come on with us tonight. Obviously, not the numbers that he was hoping for tonight. He did send me a statement saying, quote, "We've been blessed to serve our city. We are thankful for our family, our friends, and every supporter who helped us and voted for us along the way. I've always said you don't need to be a mayor to make a change in your community. You only have to care. We have cared and gave it our best shot. Congratulations to Ron and Erica as they continue their service to San Antonio. My family wishes them the best of luck. Their success is all of our success. We are blessed, and I can head home with my head held high and get back to a full-time life with my wife and children. It has been an honor to serve and run for office," exclamation point, end quote, with Greg Brockhouse. So very much sounding like a concession tonight from Greg Brockhouse, and we certainly understand the fact that he is not with us. I do think we have Anna Sandoval, though, City Councilwoman, who joins us now live on the Zoom. Anna, are you with us? Oh, she's coming into the Zoom call right now.
I think that was very classy, Greg.
Yeah, I thought it was a very classy statement from Greg Brockhouse as well. Yeah, and not to prolong what happened, and certainly you understand the fact that this is something he put his heart and soul into. So
well, it's tough to run campaigns, man. It's tough to be a candidate. It's hard work, and I think that's what you're feeling. I mean, it's tough, man. It's not easy.
Yeah. Councilwoman Sandoval, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
Great. Admiring Molly's books. Oh, now that COVID's over, I want to go and read all those titles.
I know. She's certainly the most well-read of all of us, if you judge by just her background there. I've got to say that. Congratulations on your victory tonight. Your thoughts as you head towards another term on the city council?
Well, let me tell you, I'm fresh off the campaign trail, so there are a lot of comments, a lot of streets and sidewalks I need to fix, and that is on the front of my mind right now. So we'll be taking that into the office next week for sure.
What do you think is the biggest issue that faces the city as we move forward now, past the elections and hopefully post-pandemic?
I think it's our recovery and how we come out of this. But we have fractured parts of the city that we need to address, and you're seeing that today in the turnout and the results of, or at least the early voting results of Prop B. What looked like was going to be a sweep or a clear win, if you were reading the yard signs, if you were hearing the next door conversations, actually ended up being is a very close race right now. And what I think that means for us as leaders is we don't have a single commitment. We have at least 2 huge commitments to our community. And one of them is they want to see their police officers well taken care of, and we're responsible for that. And they also want to see accountability from any person who works for the city, who receives a city paycheck. And that's also incumbent upon us either when we go back to the negotiating table or whatever happens with today's vote.
All right, I want to open it up to our panel, and I will let the very well-read Molly Cox start off the conversation with a question for you. Molly.
I am very interested in the fact that we're going from, for sure, a woman majority-led council to, right? We don't know yet. And what that looks like to you as an incumbent coming in, and sort of, over the last 2 years, women have reigned. We should all have crowns and whatever. And what does that look like moving forward? How do we keep momentum going? Right? There were things that occurred, I think, of course, over the last couple of years, obviously with the pandemic, but also we saw racism as literally coming out with a resolution that racism is a public health issue. We saw a women's equity resolution, right? We saw multiple things. And how does that then be put into policy? How do we keep momentum in that space?
Molly, I think for any council member, well, I'll speak for myself. There's a journey, right? You come in your first term, and there is a lot to learn. And once you get, for me, into the second term or later in the second term, you start to get a rhythm, and you can see the path from idea to policy to CCR to some action, something actionable, whether it's in the budget, whether it's a new ordinance. So the advantage I think we have is that even if we don't end up with a majority female council, what we will see is tenured councilwomen who know how to move that process along. I will tell you, reminiscing back to when I started the second term with a majority female council, the difference in feeling when I arrived to work, when I looked at the dais and I could see a majority women, I didn't have to count them, but there was a tension that went away when I went to work. I mean, this is, for some people this may be easy work. For me, it's high tension work. I take it very seriously. But to be surrounded with women, I felt a lot more empowered to speak up, and just like I had more allies on the council. So I think just having tenured council women is going to help.
I also want to point out, Molly and Anna, that, I have 3 daughters, so women always rule in my house. So they always have a crown, they always rule. I want to point that out, and DeMonte knows what I'm talking about as well. DeMonte, you have a question for Councilwoman?
I sure do. Anna, congratulations. I first met you on the first 2017 bond where you were wearing out a couple of pair of shoes, knocking on doors, and I think it still shows today in your numbers. So congratulations to that. And someone who's been, I think, more vocal about public health than most of your colleagues, I think it's fair to say that. A lot of the community really kicked back when the public health crisis resolution was passed because we know that those resolutions don't have teeth to them. There's nothing holding anybody accountable to dealing with that issue. How will you work with your colleagues and the mayor in putting more teeth in that resolution?
Right. So the resolution sets us on a path. It admits a truth that we needed council to admit and adopt, right? As a truth, something on paper. It does call out a number of actions that are underway now. The staff from the Office of Equity and the Office of Health Equity have been working on making those actionable and reporting to my committee. So we're going to have a report every 6 months on that. And some of those actions include looking at the impact on populations of different ethnicities and different races, because if you don't measure something, then you don't really care about it, right? You're not looking to see how it's trending. So that is absolutely part of it. Part of it is that accountability and measuring how we're doing and how our different populations are doing health-wise.
Now, is there an opportunity to bring in the community aspect of that too, right? I mean, we're seeing that the community wants to be part of these conversations, and I know council has their processes, but do you see the community being part or having a seat at that table to have those discussions as well?
Yes, DeMonte, I have to tell you something great that happened. A good thing that came out of the COVID process through the city of San Antonio is that we put together what you might call basically an advisory committee. It was called the Community Response Coalition. It is today called the Community Response and Equity Coalition for COVID-19, which is something that I advocated from the very beginning of the pandemic is we need community voices advising us as we go along, that we're going to have blind spots, and this is too big to deal with without some advice from the community to make sure we don't have blind spots. So eventually this group was formed, and what started out as a lot of doctors and virologists and very specialized doctors is today a group of certainly health professionals, but a lot of community members who know how to talk to broader parts of the population, who know what the challenges are, whether it's to getting a COVID test, to getting the vaccine, to getting to a doctor's appointment. And that conversation has gone beyond COVID to what are all these other things we need to be healthy as individuals in this community, and removing those barriers. So that is not an isolated task that's going on inside of City Hall. It is something that's happening in an open forum with community members.
There you go. Thank you.
Greg Jefferson.
Yeah, hi. I should point out that I actually work for you, as you know. But this was,
I didn't know you were
that was
there.
that was a long time ago. Look, these are it's a disclosure. It's a disclosure I have to make. But yeah, if you weren't aware of it, yeah, that was actually the case about 3 years ago.
Greg Jefferson, name is familiar.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really curious about how, as you were campaigning in District 7, how did you see support for Prop B developing, just like as you got closer to Election Day? It seemed to have picked up a lot of momentum. Were you seeing that among District 7 voters?
It did, and actually tonight's results were not what I initially expected to see. If you drove in our neighborhood, you would see, well, in our neighborhoods, you would see a lot of signs to the contrary of Prop B, voting no on Prop B. And those signs were, I think I saw more signs for that than I did for me in my district. So either people were more vocal about that, or that campaign was just working very, very hard. So that's what I saw. I certainly got a lot of questions at the door about my position on Proposition B.
And what did you say?
Well, actually, they wouldn't only ask me, what do you think about Proposition B? They would say, are you trying to defund the police? What do you think about defunding the police? Which Prop B became synonymous with defunding the police for a lot of people. And as you can see at the top of the yard sign, that's what it says. So being at the doors gave me an opportunity to say, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm, I don't have a position on Proposition B. That's going to be up to the voters. But let me tell you what I'm trying to do with your resources as an elected official. I'm trying to make sure that our police is available when they are needed. When you need someone, when someone is really, really in danger. Right now, we can't always have them there because they're called over to different assignments. So can we find a way to fill those other assignments? So we have this conversation about also what I hear is, our officers put their lives on the line. We want to make sure they're well taken care of. And that's something that, we have to take now a really great contract for them. And I don't see that I don't see those benefits in terms of, health benefits going away because of Proposition B or in the next contract.
Councilwoman Anna Sandoval, I can hear you. You were breaking up there just a little bit, but we can hear you. And I know you probably have a party to get to tonight. You probably have supporters who want to congratulate you. So I want to thank you for your time, and definitely thank you for your input tonight. And we'll see what happens with Prop B. We've still got some votes that are out there.
Thank you, Anna.
Take care. All right, so let's quickly look at the numbers. And what I've noticed is we've not updated, these numbers have not updated for us right now. 51% against 49-4. That's 0% of precincts reporting. So this is all early vote that we've seen right now. That number hasn't changed, which is a little irritating for me because I just hope we get some sort of clarity one way or the other on exactly which way this is going.
Right.
We may not get that before we end this live stream. But Proposition A passing comfortably, and this was a big thing that the mayor and others on the council wanted passed, right, Greg?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it is. And this is I'm not surprised by this result. And it's going to pass. Like it's at
right.
50. That's done. But I mean, voters really this was in a way a leap of faith. I mean, there wasn't a lot of detail about. So what exactly does when we say that this bond revenue can now be used for affordable housing project? I mean, that's fine, but it's really there's no definition of what that means. So it is really kind of leaving it to the mayor and city council to define how this money will be spent.
I'm just going through some of the other numbers here real quick. I want to check the mayor's race and see, obviously KSAT has projected Ron Nirenberg the winner, and they're the latest numbers, 63% now to 31% for Greg Brockhouse. Brockhouse already conceding the race, as a matter of fact. And let's go through the council races really quick, and if you guys want to chime in, just go ahead. All your mics are open.
Yeah, I think one race that I was excited to see was Terry Castillo in D5, and I say that because I really like to see policy-oriented folks in those seats. Like I mentioned, you got to be able to jump in, take off running, and understand how all these components work, and again how that connects to state funding and federal funding, and you can see in Anna, very, very policy-oriented. Yep. She's done very well in her 2 terms.
District 1, Roberto Trevino, 46%, Mario Bravo with 34%. Appears as if that will be going to a runoff. City Council District 2, Jalen McKee Rodriguez at 27%, Jada Andrews Sullivan, the incumbent, at, these just changed. So it's Jalen McKee Rodriguez at 26%, and Jada Andrews Sullivan at 18%, and Norris Tyrone Darden at 14%. So these numbers have changed. It actually looks like Jalen increasing his lead a little bit, but still about 200, 300 votes between Jada Andrews Sullivan and Norris Tyrone Darden.
And that's what we saw last election. You saw Keith Toney there. You saw Jada pushing, right? And I think you saw Denise Gutierrez Homer barely missing the runoff with Jada, right? And so I think that's what we traditionally see.
District 3, Phyllis Villagran, 23%, Tomas Uresti at 14%, but then you have Marcela Martinez at 13%, Angela Cardona at 9%, Walter Murray at 9%. So still pretty close in that race.
Name ID is real.
Name ID is
we
real.
See that. I mean, Thomas Uresti, you look at how much money he raised and spent, nearly nothing, right? But that name carries, and Villagran's been there for 8 years. I mean, some people just go to the poll and see what they're familiar with and they select.
That's what I was going to say, 2 familiar names at the top there. Adriana Rocha Garcia was 71%. She is an incumbent who is safe tonight. Here's the race you were talking about, DeMonte. Terry Castillo with 30%, Rudy Lopez with 14%, but then Norberto Jeremy Landon at 13% and Anthony Grace at 12%. So that's really close on second place there to Terry Castillo, and who will go to the runoff.
If I'm Norberto, I'm upset because I've raised a lot of money, and I should have been, in those top 2 people. So I'm a little disappointed in my race if I'm Landon. But again, election day still has to come out.
District 6, Melissa Cabello Haverda, 57%. Looks like she will avoid a runoff. We just talked to Anna Sandoval at 72%. District 8, Manny Pelaez with 61%, and he had 4 challengers. So that's an impressive showing for Manny Pelaez tonight with 61% to 20% for Rob Rodriguez. This is interesting because John Courage has hovered around 50% all night. Right now he is under 50% at 49% to Patrick Von Dolen at 34%. A lot of people still scratch their heads at how well John Courage does in this district because he is not considered a conservative in a largely conservative district.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. One, he hasn't behaved in a really, liberal manner. I mean, he is during budget season, he's a bit of a penny pincher. I mean, he's not throwing a lot of money at city programs. But more importantly is he's got a first-class constituent service, and people don't denigrate it, but they underconsider how important it is to talk with, neighbors, to get them services, to get them street repairs, all kinds of things. And he's very good at that. And I think
And Molly,
I was-
yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to add in there. I realize that we keep hearing that it's sort of odd that John Courage, this liberal guy and this supposedly very conservative, and I'm not disagreeing with these sort of generalizations, but I am saying, hey, this is he's going for his third term and is currently in the lead.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that conservative. Why is this guy continuously in one of the council districts that has the highest voter turnout, one of the whitest populations in our community, right? So we are consistently saying it's white and conservative, and this guy is showing up hard on his third term. And separately from that, the exact opposite, one of the largest voter turnouts in our municipal election history, and Greg Brockhouse's platform sort of tanked this go round to 30% or whatever. So I'm what does this say ultimately about where San Antonio is within municipal elections and when having these conversations? So I think when we do these generalizations of hey, District 9 typically conservative and the larger voter turnout, and we're supposed to be this uber Texas conservative space, and I'm is it? You've got John Courage coming in District 9, Ron Nierenberg super ahead, right, as a mayor, a guy who has typically been very conservative as far as what he is doing, faith and family, and he's using the sort of conservative value platform as he ran for mayor and didn't do well. So I'm I think this allows us to have a more nuanced conversation about who's voting in San Antonio.
Yeah, and I think
absolutely.
Sorry, Marley. Yeah, I think in Von Dolan, I think he adopted that Trump-style campaign, right? And so I think if it wasn't for that, John Courage would probably win by more. But there are some folks up there who really back Trump during the presidential election, and I think you're seeing that's why Von Dolan is really pushing him there.
District 10, the final of the council races, Clayton Perry at 55%, Ezra Johnson at 30%. Ezra Johnson did take him to a runoff at one point, so I think a lot of people thought maybe this was heading for a runoff again. Does not look like it right now.
Well, the difference is Gabriel Gregory. Gregory took a lot of votes. Progressive, young voters, white male. He took a lot of voters that Ezra Johnson probably got in Councilman Perry's first term, right? And so I think that's why you're seeing that. That hurt Ezra quite a bit.
So we're at about 8% of the vote from today. So I want to switch over on our KSAT.com platform here to the props and see what we have with Prop B right now with the numbers updated a little bit. And as they update on the website, it's still 51-49. The lead to, again, roughly 2,000 votes between right now the against leading versus the for. And we have a data analyst here at KSAT that says of the day of vote, the Prop B people, for it to pass, need about 54% of the day of vote to get that to happen. Is that beyond the realm of possibility in your experience, DeMonte?
Not at all. Not within the margin of error. They're in striking distance. And like I said, they had the money to do it. They had a virtual tie in terms of money they had left to spend. So if they really got out on those doors and really knocked on those doors and got those young voters out, it's a possibility.
Okay, we're going to continue to go ahead. Greg, did you want to say something? Okay, yeah. We're going to continue to look at these numbers, but I think we're going to wrap up our live stream, and I want to do that by asking each of you your final thoughts tonight about any of these races, all of the races, what you've seen. Greg, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think if you look at, let's, not that it's even really possible to do this, but let's separate Prop B from this election and just look at elected officials. I mean, I think this has been a traumatic year in a lot of respects. I mean, the pandemic, the George Floyd killing last summer, and the protests that spawned. Even 2 months ago, we had Snowmageddon and the entire city shut down for a week, and that was devastating. So I think I think the mayor and to maybe a lesser degree city council, they're getting a lot of credit for kind of seeing the city through what's been a really difficult period and doing it in a really able way. I'm not really surprised that Mayor Nurnberg won overwhelmingly. I'm not surprised that half the council is comfortably being reelected. It's kind of what I expected. The really interesting thing to me is the momentum we've seen behind Prop B just over the last several weeks.
Yeah. DeMonte, your final thoughts here.
Man, thank you, Bare Facts. I mean,
I was going to say the poll was pretty good.
We were spot on with the mayor's race, spot on with Prop A. I think we did see the division between Prop B and the thirds in support, and we talked about how depending on what they do after that would be. That it was just great to be able to see that insight. And I think the last thing I want to say is just thank you, KSAT, for this coverage. I mean, this is incredible coverage of the election, being able to thoughtfully go through each one of these races and all the propositions. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
I just love that our bosses give me the wide berth to be such an election night nerd.
Yeah.
such a numbers nerd is, I think, how Molly put it.
And
so
I get to be on set with Molly Cox. I made it, Steve.
Well,
I made
yeah,
it.
exactly. I know. and Molly, I'm going to let you give us your final thoughts here.
I have a couple, so I'm going to do it quickly, I promise. 26 minutes. That's all I
we're
need.
good.
So I will say, we didn't talk about any of the school board races, and they sometimes get shoved off to the side because big things are happening. But I will say SAISD was having a very serious school board race where it was incumbents against newcomers. There were conversations against parents and teachers and keeping things, and there was a major thing going on, and those races are something to be paying attention to as election day numbers come in, right? Leschlap and Sorensen are Sorensen's the new one, and Steve Leschlap was the guy that is our incumbent, and he's currently down. So just stuff to pay attention to when you're wanting to nerd out over things that aren't the mayor or anything else. SAISD school board. Separately from that, I think this is a conversation for all of us to stop saying things like young people are apathetic or we can't get people of color to vote. That shush.
Right.
Shush.
I don't even like the term people of color, because that's just too generic, and we have found in our Bare Facts poll that that's not necessarily a good use of a term. Am I right, DeMonte?
Well, everyone wants to be identified for who they actually are, right? You don't want to be lumped in with everyone, because every community is different.
Yeah.
It's not monolithic, right?
Yeah.
And so just to be mindful about the messaging when it comes to that.
Yeah. Sorry, I digress, Molly. This is your spotlight.
No, you're not digressing at all. I'm can we at least be more explicit about who we're speaking about? And I think the challenge is consistently when we talk about voting is that we lump people into nobody votes in municipal elections. And I'm y'all, over the course of the last decade, we have seen exponential growth in our municipal voter turnout. I realize it's still abysmal, and yet we've nearly doubled it over the course of the last decade. That's a major deal. And so I just I am desperately saying, let's give ourselves a pat on the back for the kinds of turnout we did. And y'all, this took organizing. We cannot give enough props to, and I mean props, both in voting and just generally.
Sure.
We cannot give enough, laud the fact that we had community organizers out knocking on doors and saying, we need you, that people were not turning, this mayor's race was nothing. We were meh, right? It was not exciting. There was no drama. The Prop B is what brought people out. I will stand by that. We'll look at numbers and find out later. And that took community organizing. And I think we need to just give ourselves a moment to say, hey, we should start having legitimate conversations about policy. The people in our neighborhoods have the greatest knowledge of their neighborhoods. They are the experts. Bring them to the table. That's what this election says to me today.
Molly Cox, always appreciate your time, and thank you for joining the, kinship of election night nerds.
I'm so excited to one day be in the studio again with you.
We're excited to have you here too.
Love you, Molly.
Thank
Good to see
you. Thank you, Molly Cox. Thank you, DeMonte Alexander.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you, Greg Jefferson. I appreciate the Express News letting you get away from, away from them on election night. I really appreciate your time. And I really want to say thank you to the people of San Antonio and Bexar County who got out and voted. If you want to know if your vote makes a difference, look at Prop B. Whether you're for it or against it, 2,000 votes, less than 2,000 votes right now separate this issue. So know that your vote does make a difference, and we will see you on the Night Beat tonight at 10 o'clock. Good night.